Today on the Locked On Blues podcast, the St. Louis Blues take on the New York Rangers tonight in their fourth to last game of the regular season. Vladimir Tarasenko plays against the St. Louis Blues for the first time in his career. We're going to be looking back at some of his most notable moments as a member of the St. Louis Blues and then previewing the game between the Blues and Rangers. Should be a fun episode. Make sure you stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Locked On Blues podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your number one source for Blues content. I am your host, as always, Josh Hyman. If you don't know me, welcome to the show. I've been covering the St. Louis Blues for 5 or so years through Twitter, writing articles, and this podcast, which I've been doing for the last 3 years or so. If this isn't your first time listening, if you're coming back, thanks for coming back. Thanks for making the show part of your daily routine, making Locked On Blues your hashtag first listen. Like I said, I'm Josh Hyman. You can follow me on Twitter at Josh Hyman NHL. But we got a good episode for you today, as the St. Louis Blues only have 4 games remaining in their regular season. 4 games remaining before they don't play hockey again until next October in terms of regular season play. Because for the first time since 2018, the St. Louis Blues will not be participating in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They were mathematically eliminated a few games ago. Unfortunate, but we still have a couple games to get into, and the first one is against the New York Rangers. But before I preview that game, we want to talk about a familiar face, a member of the New York Rangers by the name of Vladimir Tarasenko. Vladimir Tarasenko obviously was the face of the St. Louis Blues for a long time. My favorite player from the moment that he was a rookie. He was drafted in the 2010 entry draft, I believe, with the 17th pick, 16th pick in the 2010 NHL entry draft. Eventually made his debut with the St. Louis Blues in 2012-2013, which was a shortened season, and hit the ground running from there. Obviously, not obviously, but in fact scored a goal on his first career shot against the Detroit Red Wings for his first NHL goal, and then later scored again against the Detroit Red Wings, his second shot, to give himself 2 goals on his first 2 shots, one of very few NHL players to pull that off. The Blues ended up winning 6-0 in that game. Tarasenko debuted in January. He was later named Rookie of the Month, getting 9 points in that month. And really just hit the ground running from there. He went. He had a really good playoff series against the Chicago Blackhawks. I believe it was that season. They lost that series, but I think he scored like 7 goals in 7 games or 7 goals in 6 games, something like that. And from then on, I was just a huge fan. Had some injury trouble, obviously, with the St. Louis Blues. A couple surgeries, had a hand surgery early in his career, and then 3 different shoulder surgeries that really kept him from hitting his full potential. Only was a one-time 40-goal scorer. Got 39 the season after, but still, definitely a little bit disappointing there from Tarasenko. Still, though, an incredibly important player. If you look at his career stats with the St. Louis Blues, he ranks 5th all-time in goals with 252. He ranks 5th all-time in points with 524. In assists, he is tied for 9th with 272. He also finds himself tied for 6th in hat tricks with 5 hat tricks with the St. Louis Blues. Power play goals, tied for 7th with 63. Game-winning goals is the big one for him, as he finds himself 1 goal out of 2nd place in 3rd place with 44. And shots on goal, he finds himself in 5th place with 1,955. So definitely a player that is going to, remain in Blues lore for the foreseeable future. He's going to, stay in that top 10 for goals for a long time, until a next generation of Blues players come in to beat him, but he will remain in that top 10 for the foreseeable future. Tarasenko will always be a name remembered. His jersey is still up on my wall. That one right there. Not going to take that one down for a little bit. A lot of fond memories there. Um, Looking back, at some of my favorite Tarasenko memories, I think the one that sticks out is obviously that rookie season where he came on, caught the league by storm. Also, his goal against the New York Rangers a couple years later, where he split the defense, went into the Forsberg one hand. That was spectacular. Still one of the greatest goals I have ever seen live. Um, he had a spectacular playoff run uh, for St. Louis. He was a big contributor in the cup run, scored some big goals. Yeah, just one of my favorite players, and he was always so gracious to the fans and loving to the fans, and always made sure to thank the fans in his post game interviews. And that always resonated with me. It always made me feel like he was very humble, a good guy. He raised a family in St. Louis. I remember following him and his wife on Instagram and watching them have a kid and watching that kid grow up. And it's like time flies, and next thing you know, unfortunately, he is a member of the New York Rangers. Things went a little bit south towards the end with him and his trade request, but I'm glad he's having some success with the Rangers. Was a bit of a win-win trade for the Blues as they were able to get Sammy Blais and draft picks back. So in this upcoming second segment, I'm going to be talking about the game against the Rangers, what to expect. And then in the third segment, I'm going to give you my pick for locked on player of the game. Before I do that, I want to tell you guys about today's sponsor, and that is FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That is bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line, point scorers, even threes drained. Plus, FanDuel lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to fanduel.com/locked on. That is fanduel.com/locked on to learn more. You can make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. And I'll be right back with the second half of today's episode. All right, so the St. Louis Blues have only 4 games left in their regular season, and after tonight, they will have only 3 because the New York Rangers host the St. Louis Blues, or no, other way around. Yeah, homecoming for Vladimir Tarasenko. Forgot about that. The New York Rangers visit the St. Louis Blues, so that's going to be a little bit emotional with Tarasenko and his likely tribute video. I don't know why I thought the Blues were playing in New York. I got that one mixed up. But that's going to be tough. I'm sure Tarasenko will be very grateful to have his hometown fans. I hope they cheer for him. I'm sure they will. I can't imagine any sort of booing or anything like that. But yeah, Tarasenko and the New York Rangers come into St. Louis for a nice visit. New York is a very, very solid team this year at 46, 21, and 11. On the road, they are 23, 9, and 7. So honestly, a just as good of a road team, if not better than they are at home. The Blues are just okay at home, 17, 16, and 6. So not a whole lot of home ice advantage there for them in that sense. In terms of offense, the Rangers have the 10th best offense in the NHL. The Blues have the 15th. The Rangers generate the 15th most shots on goal. Blues with 27th power play. The Rangers are top 10 at the 9th spot with a 23.2% power play. Blues are all the way back at 23rd. However, the Blues are good at converting the shots that they do get, as they are 3rd in the NHL in shooting percentage. Rangers find themselves at 10th. Face-off, surprisingly, they are both exactly tied at 48.8%. Moving on to defense is where the Rangers really thrive, as they find themselves 4th in goals allowed, only allowing 2.67 goals per game, where the Blues really struggle. They are 27th in the NHL with 3.6. Shots on goals allowed, the Rangers are also really good, and 7th in the NHL with 29.5. Shot generation, a big struggle for the Blues this season, especially as of late. So I wonder if that's going to be telling tonight. The Blues struggle to get shots on goal. Blues find themselves at 24th with shots on goal allowed. Penalty kill, the Rangers aren't quite as good as they are on the power play, at 14th in the NHL with about 81%, 28th in the NHL for St. Louis. And then penalty minutes, they are exactly even with 7.9 penalty minutes per game. So seemingly going to be fairly even from a special teams perspective. Obviously, the Rangers have a pretty solid power play, and the Blues penalty kill, apart from last game, has been really, really poor. Definitely going to be a test for them there. Uh, Yaroslav Halak is expected to get the start for the Rangers, so the Blues can avoid Igor Shesterkin, which is probably for the best, as he is one of, if not the best goalie in the NHL this year. But Halak has had a decent season, 10-8-4, 906 save percentage, 2.69 goals allowed. So, solid season from Halak. A journeyman, has played with the Blues in the past, played with the Bruins in the past. Not going to be not going to be an easy guy to score on. The Blues always seem like, not just this year, but in years past, always seem like they really struggle against teams' backup goaltenders for whatever reason. So that's going to be an interesting narrative. Jordan Binnington getting the start for St. Louis following a very solid performance against the Philadelphia Flyers. I hope he can play well against the Rangers. The Rangers have an extremely, extremely high-powered offense. Vladimir Tarasenko, obviously. Patrick Kane is day-to-day, but if he plays, he only adds to that. Artemi Panarin, Chris Kreider, the list goes on and on. The Rangers got a ton of guys that can score. Hopefully the Blues can, withstand the storm and play good defense. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Blues contend in this game. They're well over 500 in their last 10 games. They've been playing really, really good hockey as of late. Binnington's been playing solid. The defense has been above average and a lot better than they have been at the low points of the season. And the offense has been spectacular lately, led by guys, like Jordan Kyrou. I think Pavel Buchnevich is making his return to the lineup tonight. So playing his former team in the New York Rangers, that's definitely going to be a big storyline there. Sammy Blais also playing his former team in the New York Rangers. I'm not sure if Robert Thomas makes his return tonight. Let me check the lineups really quick before I delve too far into that. Robert Thomas does not make his return tonight, but Pavel Buchnevich does. So definitely a big story there. I'm looking forward to seeing Buchnevich play against his former team. Looking forward to seeing Jordan Binnington continue the momentum off of that Philadelphia win. Sammy Blais is a guy that I think has played really well lately and will maybe want revenge against a team that really stifled his offense. Maybe not necessarily their fault. A little bit of just a lack of chemistry there, but obviously, Blais not scoring a single goal in his tenure with the New York Rangers. I wonder if he's anxious to show them what he's capable of and get himself a Geno tonight, but we will see there. In terms of the rest of the lineup, the first line is Saad, Shen, and Kyrou. I like that line a lot. Kyrou still getting rewarded with that first line time alongside Braden Shen, who has had, I think, is in the midst of his second highest scoring season ever in his career, which is great to see. Brandon Saad, another guy that I think has been underrated this year, not quite racking up the points all that much, but solid player. You know what you're getting from him night in, night out. Jake Neighbors is a left wing on that second line. I have absolutely loved what I've seen out of Jake Neighbors lately. He has been such an perfect player for the Blues with his physicality and his offense, and his playmaking has been so beyond his years. I'm excited to see if he can continue that tonight against a very good Rangers team. Buchnevich gets the center spot, an area where he has been doing a lot better than I expected. I still would like to see him on the wing long-term in the future, but who knows? He's definitely adapted to playing center a lot better than you would expect. Someone who barely played any center time in his career, getting switched to that position, 75% of the way through the season. Jakub Vrana is the right wing on that line. I really, really like that line. I think the physicality of Buchnevich and Neighbors combined with the speed of Jakub Vrana is going to create some difficulties for the New York Rangers. Third line, you got Sammy Blais, Kasperi Kapanen, another guy who doesn't typically play center. So the Blues are obviously very thin on their center depth. Only one natural center in the lineup right now, honestly. Josh Levo is the right wing on that line. And then the fourth line, you got Alexei Toropchenko, Nathan Walker, again, not a natural center, and Tyler Pitlick. So face-off dot, even though the Blues are dead even with the Rangers on the season, the fact that their only natural center is Braden Shen is definitely a little bit worrisome. I know that Pavel Buchnevich has honestly had a surprising amount of success in the face-off dot, so who knows there. Third and fourth line for the Blues, definitely a little bit concerning. If Blais can bring it offensively, then it's a little bit less worrisome, but that fourth line is just going to struggle to generate any sort of offense, I think. Looking at the defense, you got Leddy and Parayko, a pairing that has been impressing me as of late, specifically in Colton Parayko. You got Torrey Krug and Justin Falk. Justin Falk has had a decent stretch of games lately after a very, very disappointing regular season. Torrey Krug, not so much, still really letting me down this year. Cale Rosen, who is one of my favorite defensemen on the Blues, best defenseman in terms of advanced metrics and advanced stats. So I'm excited to see what he can do. I think he deserves to be a full-time defenseman in this lineup come next season, but we will see. And then Dmitry Samurakov was recently called up from the AHL as an emergency call-up, so he will get the final defensive spot. And then Jordan Binnington is between the pipes. So interesting lineup for the St. Louis Blues for sure. Sort of similar to what we've been seeing lately. Still no Robert Thomas, which is disappointing. But in this upcoming third and final segment, I'm going to be giving my pick for locked on player of the game. So don't go anywhere. But before I do that, I want to tell you guys that today's show is also brought to you by Indeed. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could handpick the best stars for your business team? If you're building your talent roster, you need Indeed. Indeed is the best hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills where you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching, assessments, and virtual interviews. Hate waiting? Indeed's US data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. So Indeed shows when you're growing your business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. So visit Indeed.com/locked on to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/locked on. One more time, that is Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions do apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. And I will be right back to wrap up today's episode. All right, ladies and gentlemen, one final segment, making my pick for locked on player of the game. Couple different narratives you could go with, couple different storylines you could go with. One guy I was thinking about was Sammy Blais, having an offensive resurgence with the St. Louis Blues after struggling immensely against the Rangers with a bit of a prove it game. Jordan Binnington, who had a really solid game against Philadelphia in his most recent start, has a chance to continue that momentum against a really, really strong offensive Rangers team. But for me, the pick is fairly obvious in another guy that I think is due for a big game, making his return to the lineup after missing the last few games due to injury, has not played since March 28th against Vancouver, where he had a goal and assist, had 4 points in his last 2 games before going down with injury, and that is Pavel Buchnevich, the winger turned center, who has been surprisingly strong in the faceoff dot since making the change, winning 5 or so faceoffs a game consistently, playing good hockey. One of the Blues' best offensive players. He's only played 59 games, but he is still second on the team in points with 66. So that's obviously impressive to see. On pace for a very, very solid total if he didn't miss so many games. So yeah, Buchnevich is an obvious choice playing his former team in the New York Rangers. I really hope we can see some good stuff out of him tonight, especially on that second line that I really like with Jake Neighbors and Jakub Vrana. I think that line is incredibly dynamic with Vrana's speed and the skill that he brings, coupled with the playmaking ability of Jake Neighbors, his physicality, and then Buchnevich is a great physical workhorse type player. I think the speed of Vrana is going to open up the ice a lot, plus the passing of Jake Neighbors means Pavel Buchnevich is going to have perhaps the easiest time getting set up for goals that he has all season. I think those two wingers are spectacular in terms of chance generation for the Blues. So I'm looking forward to a big night from Pavel Buchnevich. It's going to be a tough one, though. The Rangers are trying to gear up for a playoff spot where the Blues are obviously out of it. Going to be a fun one either way. I'm looking forward to it. That being said, that is all the time I have for you guys today. Make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you get your podcast, any podcast platform, free, available, fresh, whenever I post a new episode, all there at the same time. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel to see my beautiful face every single time I post an episode, and that you can find at Locked On Blues. Tomorrow's episode will likely be a blue or false, so that means I'm going to ask you guys 3 different poll questions. You'll vote in them. I'll read your responses. There could be some hot takes. There could be some outlandish takes. That's why I'm making them into polls. I want to see what you guys think. I want to see how you vote, and then leave some replies, etc. If you want to participate in that, make sure you follow the YouTube channel at Locked On Blues. I post it in the community tab. I also post them on Twitter at Locked On Blues. So check out both of those. You can vote twice. You can leave a reply. I'm trying to read every single reply to those live on the podcast. You can also follow the show on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blues. You can follow me on Twitter at Josh Hyman NHL. Thank you all so much for listening. And as always, let's go Blues.